Yeah, that's my email address down there, and I think my contact information is also on the back of the agenda.
Can I ask one more question? Just curious, what Barbara was saying earlier about where the line is, and this may affect Adina, and there could be problems, and she wanted to talk about that. What problem? It sounds to me like you're talking about a legal action against the state if the line is drawn where you think it's inappropriate. Do I have that wrong?
Yeah, you have that wrong. I certainly am not.
Well, what complications, what were you referring to, alluding to?
Well, I think that if the line is drawn and it includes let's just say that it stays at the 1,000 year and the northeast corner stays in, which isn't warranted, in my opinion. That just adds additional burden to the property owner as the project is developed, perhaps additional costs down the road, and I think there's always the likelihood that the deviation from the 100-year travel time could be a reason for someone to challenge the BMAP. I think it's a significant issue. I don't think they've paid careful attention to that, but I think it's a significant issue. And it could be that more burden would be placed on them down the road.
So you mean that is legal action you're talking about?
Well, somebody could take legal action. I think it opens the door for that. I'm certainly not aware that Adina is planning to do that, but.
But you're saying that's a possibility?
Who's behind that? I'll get to you.
Judy Esmer, resident of my own well. I'm curious, you said a property owner in the northeast. Is there a specific property owner that you're thinking of? You said more burden placed on them?
I'm here today representing Adina Springs Ranch, and that's my
Oh, okay.
primary.
Right.
That's the
Clarified.
only area it's an area I've really focused on and looked at.
Okay, they clarified. It's always interesting to know the background.
David Tillman again. My concern is not just for Adina Beach, though. I mean, Marion County as a whole shouldn't be imposing additional regulation on areas that aren't going to affect the springs. Certainly, Lake County made a great point that tax dollars are going to be spent doing projects, potentially placing additional regulation on properties that won't have an effect on the outflow of the springs. That will discourage growth potentially in Marion County, and maybe that's what a lot of people want, is to discourage growth in Marion County. So, but that's not what I'm after, so therefore I don't think, so I would want the line to be challenged by Lake County or some other government entity that says, you know what, you've roped us into having to do more work than is reasonable to make an effect within the springs. And so, you know, I want it to be something that's solid and defendable. I don't, and that the work that gets done and the money that gets spent is worthwhile.
And why don't you think the 1,000-year one is?
Well, it's not just 1,000 years. You've gone outside of the 1,000-year.
It's the Phelps line, it basically is what it is, right?
And just for the record, just say that the Phelps line, we refer to that comes from a United States Geological
Right.
Survey report. So that is a federal agency that published that line.
That's the line, pretty much the line you're using, right? You're just using it right close to that area?
Not exactly. What we did is we took all the different potentiometric delineations and then the other sources, which are the composites that Florida Springs Institute has done from a variety of different sources. They did include the Phelps as part of that. There are also some different model boundaries, and basically set a BMAP management area with using that information but referencing it to in most cases the closest feature on the ground that we could find, which is mostly road systems.
I mean, you're not catering to somebody saying, I want the line here. It's based on studies, multiple studies. So
Correct.
you're not just drawing a line just to rope you in so that you have to do more work, you know.
I don't believe it.
And also, a road system is recognizable to everybody regardless of, you know, who they are.
So
That's
you
the
may
re-
face, what I'm getting here, the message I'm getting is, you may determine this line based on the various studies over the years and other people's studies. And so you determine that, and now Adina is threatening to challenge where you're drawing the line because they think
You know what, let
you're
me say something
catering
to
to
that.
someone else.
Absolutely,
the
that's
message
not
I'm
what was
getting.
just said, and that's exactly the take you took on the CRA. The CRA is for improvement within a community, and all you did was pick all the negative things out of it because you don't like it.
Eminent domain, enforced relocation, and building commercial activities
Some of
on
the
state
Some of
property.
the smallest portions of the whole CRA program, and so you're taking the negative out of everything that's said here and putting the biggest twist on it you can, and I don't think that's appropriate.
The
That
inference
was not
was
the intent
made.
that was not what was said.
It
And
opens the door to it.
She clearly said that was not the
That's correct. No.
She said it's a
intent of the-
possibility.
She said
I
it's a
said
possibility from
someone.
someone, but
Someone, not
she did not say the
Adina.
intent of it.
Okay, I'm going to add, I know everybody has some very strong feelings about this here. I want to get the flip and move on to the next slide, but please, everybody, let's be polite and civil with each other. I don't.
One more quick comment.
Flip is first, then I'll get to you real quick. Oh, the two, okay. Flip, Gail, and then I'm not sure what, Ellen? Okay.
Cliff Milliger, Marion County Utilities Director. I think it's important that you follow the science that you've got. And the best science that you have shows where that boundary is, and that's where it needs to stay. We don't need to adjust it for socioeconomic reasons. We don't need to adjust it for political reasons. That's science. Follow the science. Where the intensity of the effort is placed within that boundary is what we'll have to decide over the period of time. If you're way up in the northeast or way down in Lake County, you have less impact, maybe your participation in this is to just make sure you don't add more of an issue in the future. Adjust your ordinances, whatever it is, so that you don't create more impact. To establish the boundary, follow the science.
And I just want to piggyback on what Flip is saying. Not one single person in this room wants Silver Springs to continue to degrade. Everybody in this room wants a positive outcome. Everyone. So we're all part of the same team here as we move forward, trying to figure out what projects. I mean, we're all going to be looking for those big projects that get the biggest bang for the buck, period. A lot of the money that's going to be spent for the projects will probably be taxpayer oriented. And there may be some private projects, but you know, when we look at what we're going, excuse me, I need to drink the water now. But when we look forward, I mean, we need to be looking at what we've done to date. A lot of people have done a lot of work that maybe we're not seeing the fruition yet in the Springs. A lot of us have stuff in place that is going to be implemented, and then we have to look at future development. And Shane's mentioned that a few times, but I think the overall concept we have to remember is we're all part of the same team here.
Hi, I'm Ellen Moss from the city of Hawthorne, and when we asked the question about the cost, you know, the improvements that might have to be made to a small municipality, well, upgrading to your TMDL standards for a small municipality that has 1,400 residents, there's no state federal money out there, and there's no match available because small municipalities don't typically have funds available to, you know, go after 319 matching grants and stuff like that. And you have to understand that also you have loads and you have inputs, and depending on the soil cap that you have when you load something is your input. So north of Marion County, you start a clay layer all the way up through the Hawthorne Ridge. And that clay layer is anywhere, has a topsoil cap of 6 foot, in some areas down to 0. So, and you know, when you're in a clay area, that is what how you treat your loads in that clay area. That is your significant treatment when you're talking about inputs. So, although if we do stay in the 1,000-year thing, you need to be very careful not to aggressively require everyone to meet just an A or a B limit. You need to make sure that we have the opportunity to control our limits with how we're doing the treatment and what our input and load is.
That's a good point, and I didn't want to reiterate what Flip just said about you have the larger BMAP management area, and then you have focus areas where there'll be a higher intensity of activities. In a stakeholder-driven process, in this case, the local government that's a stakeholder, you bring to the table what you are capable of doing. Okay, so you understand that as we move forward, you have that input. So it's not that somebody's going to say, you have to do this project. You have the opportunity to say, this is what we feasibly can do.
Well, but, and let me just respond to that. Being familiar with Wakulla County and its TMDL limit issue, and Wekiva Basin area with its TMDL issue, you know, you tend to have a blanket requirement for those areas. And statewide, even with 62640, with land application of septage, you've pretty much had a blanket requirement where soil treatment is exactly how it is treated with your loads and inputs. So it needs to be based more on what you have available at the site and not a blanket requirement for everyone. So this is my first notice of this particular issue happening that involves Hawthorne, but I will be very involved because to shoulder a regulatory requirement that has a 1,000-year input to the springs is something that we want to make sure we don't have an overburden for a small municipality.